And this is every athlete that you love, that you know and love. This is their identity is wrapped up in.
He's using them as influencers, not
exactly. They were kind of like the Taylor Swift to internet companies at this time. They're just taking off. And in some places, like you guys are like, I couldn't turn around without seeing them everywhere.
Yeah. Money comes from heaven. It comes from Sand Hill.
Have an abundance mindset.
Don't start selling until you've already built an infrastructure for something much bigger.
Yeah, exactly. So he starts sending the seed product that they have to like tech execs, and the year is 2010 in New Zealand. Tim Brown is 29 years old, and he's the captain of the New Zealand national soccer team, which hasn't made the World Cup since 1982. It's a summer night. They're playing at their home stadium. Corner kick comes into the box, and someone from New Zealand, a forward, heads it into the goal, and the announcer yells, "That's the goal New Zealand's been waiting for 28 years." Tim's 29 years old. It's his last chance to make a World Cup. It's really his last chance to play competitive soccer. They go to the World Cup. It's in South Africa. They go undefeated at the World Cup. However, all their matches ends in ties, and that's the end of their time. Somebody else from their group won a game, and they were not able to advance to the tournament. So now Tim's career as a soccer player is over. 30 years of identifying himself as someone who kicks a ball is done, and he's got to figure out the next chapter. But he's got an idea. A shoe made out of wool that would eventually become the company Allbirds, which is what we're talking about today. And I've got some super exciting guests here. Ben Baltez, Toybox, founder of Toybox. Tell us about Toybox.
So Toybox is a company. We make 3D printers for kids. So basically it's there's a low-cost 3D printer that we sell and an app with thousands of toys. Kids find whatever they want on the app, press a button, and it builds it for them.
Nice. That's a great pitch.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I've
it's like
had
you've practiced
lots of years of practice.
It's like you've done this before.
Yeah.
So founder, this will be interesting. Founder from Silicon Valley, talking about a Silicon Valley company, a company that did some money raising, maybe to their detriment. Who knows?
Just a little bit of money raising. Not as much as these other companies out here.
So
sure.
you can have some insight there. Also, Annette Mullaney.
Yes.
Got it right. Like John.
Yep, exactly.
Like no relation though.
Nope.
You should just say there is.
I've been introduced like when I first started comedy as the less funny Mullaney, so I'm really trying to sever those.
Yeah. I think you could just be like, why don't you just stick with it until you're like the almost as funny.
The almost as funny.
And then the kind of as funny.
We're more recently off the island than him. We got the 2 L's, he's got the 1.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Super big difference.
You're like the Arabic Mullaney.
Yes, exactly.
Annette, very funny stand-up comedian. You can check her out on Instagram. There should be titles under you guys right now. You can't see them.
Oh,
they're just on the screens. Yeah. So there should be titles right now where you can follow them. Very funny comedian. So Tim Brown was a soccer player. I didn't even know this about him. He's a professional soccer player, founder of Allbirds. Here's something fun though. Do you know what either of you guys know what the most popular sport is in New Zealand?
Oh,
rugby.
For sure, rugby.
Yeah, rugby. You both know. You know what
the All Blacks.
The All Blacks. Okay. Do you guys know what the New Zealand national soccer team is called?
The All Whites.
It is called the All Whites.
Oh no.
They wear all white.
Are they all white?
I looked at the team picture from this year, 2010. 21 white dudes, 4 white coaches.
All right.
Damn.
So everyone.
The rugby team has hella Maori dudes.
Yeah, no.
But not, that's
100% white dudes on the all whites, which kind of makes sense why they didn't make the World Cup in 28 years. Like, it's coming together for me. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like all the talent in New Zealand gets into rugby. But yeah, that's just a confluence of unfortunate circumstances ending up with an all whites team.
Yeah. Could you imagine if they like made the final and like the stands were like whites, like chanted?
Do you know why?
Especially in South Africa, man, that would have been. We're not that far removed from apartheid. That would have been rough.
Why are they called all whites?
They just haven't caught up with like, hey, if we have like a sports team, maybe we shouldn't call it the all whites.
Just the New Zealand.
They just wear all white.
They wear all white. Yeah.
The rugby wore just black uniforms, so they became the All Blacks.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're playing off of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I grew up near Michigan State, and our cheer is Go Green, Go White. If that Go Green isn't first, that Go White sounds real weird.
So that's the all whites.
All right.
Let's go whites. So it's probably good that they're not making it. Also, that was the last time they made the World Cup too. So now it's been like another 14 years or whatever. It only happens every 4 years, but still, they're not great.
Yeah.
You know, the all whites thing not working for them.
It's tough, man. Well, Oceania gets like 1.5 teams in the World Cup or something, right?
Yeah, I'll defer to your knowledge on that. I don't know. This was not part of my research.
Oh no, I have to maintain like a certain level of sports knowledge to maintain a relationship with my dad. So
gotcha.
Right.
Yeah,
you know?
He's like, otherwise, you know, I just have nothing to say to you.
Yeah, just enough to be like, oh yeah, and I pay attention.
Yeah, you're like, Dad, you love me, approve of me. Yeah, got it. Cool. So Tim, like, so here's the thing about being I was like a professional athlete before this, not on the all whites, but before in this career that I'm in. The thing that I kind of always say about it is that it's like it really wraps up your identity in like a very kind of unhealthy way. You don't know that at the time though. And this is every athlete that you love, that you know and love, this is their identity is wrapped up in it. Like their value to themselves, it only depends on how well they can kick a ball or bounce a ball or shoot it or whatever. So it's really hard to leave. And I think I've heard a quote before that it's like, you know, there's not a lot of careers you put your whole like mind, heart, and body into, and that's one, right? So he's got problems now, like all athlete. I'm projecting some stuff onto him, right? Like really, this is my own mental health stuff that I'm projecting onto this company. Yeah. So he's like, let me start a shoe company. So he's got a plan. It involves sheep, and New Zealand also has like way more sheep than people. They're like, you know, 31 million sheep in New Zealand.
Oh my God.
I don't even know how many people. Not that many.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one for every
2 sheep for every man, I believe is how it
probably,
goes.
Probably less. Yeah.
You get your human wife, your 2 sheep wives, you're good.
Yeah. So they have a sheep that's called merino. They have a type of sheep called merino sheep. I don't know if you guys have heard merino before, but it's a different kind of sheep that produces like a different kind of wool. And Tim had an idea like, hey, I bet I could use that because it's used in clothing. It's like a really nice fabric. He's like, I bet I could use that and make a shoe because nobody's made a shoe out of this stuff yet. So that's his plan. He goes and goes to all these factories, gets a prototype built, and launches it on Kickstarter. He goes to his buddy's farm, sheep farm. I guess that's the thing in New Zealand. He goes to like his buddy's sheep farm and like chases some sheep around and creates a Kickstarter video out of it. It's very kind of Flight of the Conchords-esque. They've got like one note they play in New Zealand. They're like, yeah, it's like the Flight of the Conchords. Like, okay, got it.
We got 3 things: Flight of the Conchords, quirkiness, and Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings,
yeah.
The all whites too.
The all whites. Yeah. So puts it on Kickstarter, and he sent it to. This is the upside of being from a super small country. Sent it to some like New Zealand press outlets. And one of them picked it up because there's probably not very much news in New Zealand. There's not very many people. It's mostly sheep-related news. So they picked it up, and some people backed it from New Zealand. And that actually was enough to get it to like the front page of Kickstarter. And so his goal was like $30,000.
You know what that pitch was? Was it just like, what if... Look at these lovely sheep. What if we could wear them on our feet? Like, what's the...
Yeah. Good call. So
there's a surplus of sheep. We need to figure out what to do with them.
Yeah.
Look, the world has a ton of feet. We only got...
And the thing is, when we take their wool, they don't die. So we just keep getting more wool and keep getting more sheep, right? So that's a good point. So the opening line of his video was, if you wore your shoes for 30 days straight with no socks, would they stink? And that's the thing with merino wool.
No wonder this shit took off with programmers.
Yeah.
Programmers heard that and they were like, yes, I can get away one more day without showering.
Yeah. How many? They're like efficient. They're all doing the Steve Jobs, like, oh, now I don't have to buy socks. One less decision to make. So they, So that's the thing about merino wool, is that it is like super moisture wicking, like gets moisture away from your body. It's also antimicrobial. So I used to work in like a running store. Like we sold running stuff, like shoes and things like that. And merino wool is like a common, like we had like some merino wool stuff. And one of my coworkers was like, I'm going to wear this for 7 days straight and see if like, because the reps would always say like, it won't stink. You could run in
Wait,
it,
what
do
were
a full run.
shoes or socks?
No,
or
these
what?
were not shoes. This is just a shirt. This is before Allbirds. There really were no shoes that used this before Allbirds, that's actually pretty uncommon in physical products for it actually to be a net new product. Usually it's just like some variation of something that already exists, right? So, this guy wore it for 7 days. And I mean, like, I didn't like get up in his business and smell him, but he said it
should
didn't.
have for science.
He said it didn't smell.
He said, I mean, he probably got nose blind throughout the week.
That's a good point. And also, like, he still showered his body.
Yeah.
So, like, I think if you like got up and smelled him, if he's wearing anything, you're just gonna smell that, unless the shirt's really bad.
Yeah, we should repeat this experiment for science.
Yeah.
7 days, night and day, no showering.
No showering. Work out in it, everything.
Work out, bring in some fresh noses.
Yeah, I agree. So.
Could charge a lot for that, actually, depending on who's wearing them.
That's true. Like if like Taylor Swift wore the same shirt for like 7 days, I bet that would sell for so much money on eBay.
It wouldn't even be pervs buying if it was Taylor Swift. It would be like some obsessed 14-year-old.
Yeah, with money. Yeah. So Tim also he's not a big fan of logos. When he was a athlete, he was like sponsored by Nike and Adidas, poor guy. And he had to wear these logos. He didn't like that. He's like an independent guy, right? Doesn't want to be logo attached.
Do Allbirds not have logos on them?
That was one of the things. Is that he didn't want there to be logos. And also merino wool is an interesting kind of like, if you don't know, if you've never like felt a pair of Allbirds, like you should. It's like, I don't know if you could put a logo on there.
Yeah, interesting.
It's not super sturdy, honestly. Like one of the problems with the shoes is that they would get holes in them.
Right.
Oh, man. Again, it's kind of perfectly pitched for the tech market.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of people who believe that they're not influenced by status and only merit counts.
Yes.
But then you have these really recognizable shoes, but you can still lie to yourself and be like,
they're just
I'm not
shoes.
wearing
wear
logos. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't wear logos. I'm not
Where
shallow.
did my Patagonia vest go? So yeah, he had a background in product design. So he played soccer at University of Cincinnati. That was what he studied. So this was interesting. So he to do this Kickstarter, he had petitioned the government of New Zealand, which has a board for merino wool.
For sure.
Yeah. They're like, look, guys, we need more exports. We basically have the Lord of the Rings set, and that's it. Like we need to do more in the world. And so they have like a whole board that it like funds projects that are looking for uses for merino wool, because they got all these sheep, they don't know what to do with them, right? So he like got a grant from them, and that was how he funded the Kickstarter, how he like got the initial products made and stuff like that. And then the Kickstarter made $120,000. And he so he's $30,000. $30,000 was his goal. He got to 120, and then he just turned the campaign off because he got scared. He was like, "How am I gonna? I don't know how I'm gonna get these."
All these?
Oh no, I have to deliver.
Yeah,
I'm surprised the Kickstarter was only 120, and they scaled so much afterwards.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting. So Tim, like, he's got a good idea, and he's kind of like the consumer of this, but like, it's pretty clear he like does not know what he's doing with the business, because like most people wouldn't just stop the campaign at 120. I think he stopped it way short.
Yeah.
Kicking that ball did not give him business sense.
Yeah, weird, right? Yeah, his identity has been soccer player for 30 years at this point. He's just doing his best, right? He's like, I don't know, dude. I just was gonna chase some shit. I didn't think this was gonna work, right? So he's a little bit surprised. So he's trying to fulfill all these orders. One of his backers was another dude named Joey Zwillinger. So Joey is an engineer, and he's here. He's based here in Silicon Valley. He works at a venture capital firm, and he's very interested in like eco-friendly stuff. So sustainability is like a big passion of his. And he's finding when he's trying to do deals that he'll bring something to the table for a company, and he'll say like, hey, you could replace this like plastic material that you're using with this other thing that is more sustainable, more eco-friendly and sustainable, and it won't cost you more. It's like net. And they're like, oh yeah, cool. They're like really excited about it. And so then he'll like line it up, and when it comes time to pay the invoice, they're like, dude, actually, you know what? I think if that's possible, like maybe we're just not using cheap enough plastic. Like, can you just find us some cheaper plastic, right? So that's like, he keeps having this happen, and it's like frustrating him because he's I don't think you can be a purpose-driven VC, venture capitalist. You know what I mean? And
he's
so
just like in his office going, why do they keep caring about the bottom line?
His firm's like, dude,
Who
that's
could have predicted?
That's what we want, man. Yeah. These guys keep trying to drive shareholder value. Sick of it. So he's like super passionate about the environment. He backs the project because it's wool, and wool is like a very sustainable material.
Just keep growing it.
Yeah, when you have 30 million sheep.
Yeah, you got 30 million sheep in New Zealand, and not a lot of uses for merino wool if there's a board that's granting grants, right? So he backs it, and he gets his shoes finally, because Tim doesn't know what he's doing. It takes him a long time to get all these shoes out. Joey gets his shoes, and he ordered like a men's size 10. He gets a women's size 10. And so he hits him up. He's like, hey, he had a customer support, which was just Tim. And he was like, hey, I got these women's 10s. I ordered a men's 10.
And this is a guy in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Men, women.
Yeah. I ordered a men's. He's like, look, whatever I identify as, I need the men's 10.
I need a bigger
my foot
shoe.
is going to be too big. And you like most customer success, like you own a brand. That happened to you. You'd be like, oh, we sent you the wrong product. So sorry, let's get the right one out to you. Tim says, hey man, just take out the insole and that'll create more room for your foot. You could totally wear that women's 10. Because he's like, that's how they came back to me. I didn't have a men's 10, right? Like I didn't have one to sell.
Are all the shoes the same size and he just changes the insoles and all of them?
He just wrote 10 and some of it 9, you know.
Wait, so is he working with a manufacturing facility?
Yeah, he was, but they like screwed up his order. Like he's not experienced it enough to know like.
I can tell you, like when you manufacture anything that you think can get fucked up will get plus 10,000 other things. It's crazy.
And when you haven't done it before, you don't think that's gonna happen.
The stuff that they've messed up on our first orders, you would not believe.
Yeah, especially when they're first getting your product out. So yeah, he's like reeling. This whole experience has been like, I made $120,000 and I lost money trying to get all these shoes out to people. And Joey's like, dude, you clearly are drowning. Like, let's get together. And I think that at this point, Tim's living in like England or something like that, like London. And so he flies to the US. Their wives were friends, so they kind of like knew each other. That was how Joey found out about the project. So their wives are friends. So he like flies, they fly out and their wives do like a thing we'll probably go to Burning Man or something like that.
Random bitch shit. Who knows?
Right, of course.
It's unrelated to shoes.
Yeah, not related to shoes at all. Their wives do that without them, which sus already. Like, I don't know if I'd want my wife to go to Burning Man
they'd be
them.
the ones talking about the shoes.
Yeah. So these guys just like hang out and drink for like a weekend, and decide to go into business together, which as you do, right? And which kind of works, right? Because Joey actually has like ins in venture capital, and Tim clearly has no idea what he's doing, right? He's just a product guy. But they still don't have any money. So they actually have a pretty smart way of getting money. Now, at this point, what most physical product brands would do is they would just start selling to the consumer, right? So they'd get the product, they start selling to the consumer. I guess if you have manufacturing issues, maybe not, but like they would just start maybe taking pre-orders or something like that. Joey's like, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're going to get more money from other people, and then we're going to scale faster. So instead of seeding like influencers, which is what most shoe brands would do at this point, he starts seeding tech execs.
Yeah, and he's scaling it like a tech company.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't start selling until you've already built an infrastructure for something much bigger.
Yeah, exactly. So he starts sending the seed product that they have to like tech execs and like VCs and stuff. And like a lot of people that I think like Larry Page is wearing them. Jack Dorsey.
Really? So he's using them as influencers, not
exactly.
Interesting.
So like, and these are like people who are not famous.
Yeah.
But they're like F listers, right? But the F stands for funding. They're F listers with a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like
they're known in their industry.
Paul Graham wore them. 19 out of 20 people you ask out in the world don't know who Paul Graham is.
Oh yeah.
But the one person who knows who Paul Graham is
$1 billion.
Yeah. Super rich dude, right? And he backs companies, right? And so that's what they do. They just start like sending them to like Y Combinator and A16Z.
They're just sending it for free.
Yep. They're just sending these guys shoes to wear.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they got like a couple so then when that happens, what happens if you work at Twitter and you see Jack Dorsey wearing these shoes,
Mhm.
right? Like you're like, I guess I better go buy those shoes,
Yeah.
right? Like, what are those shoes? I can't tell. There's no logos. So that's how they get into their pitches, and then Joey also has some connections, right? So they go into the pitch and they tell this story about being eco-friendly and the Kickstarter and all that, but none of that stuff is how it's sold. The reason it's sold is because Paul Graham's wearing it on his feet.
Yeah.
When they walk in there,
Did
and
they
everybody
try it all to sell it to jocks? Coming from soccer, or was it like, we got these tech people, let's focus on this?
So I think this is a really interesting approach that they took, because usually you would like send the shoes to athletes or send the shoes to influencers, and then the ones who liked it would post, and then that's like kind of how you would maybe grow in a grassroots sort of way. But these guys were like, we don't even care about selling it. We just care about raising money.
Yeah, so this is a fundraising strategy, not a
selling strategy.
Not a selling strategy. That's interesting.
Yeah, very like creative approach, I would say. Like one of the maybe smartest things these dudes did. So yeah, Allbirds after this, and so they end up raising $200 million. And that was
are they called Allbirds at this point?
Yeah, they have, I think by this point, rebranded to Allbirds.
Why?
Good question.
It doesn't.
Random thing.
It had nothing to do with birds.
We're talking about sheep. We're talking about soccer.
Yeah.
We're talking about girlfriends.
Yeah.
Cucking them at Burning Man. But where do the birds come in?
Where are the birds? Okay, so this was I'd never questioned this. Like, have you guys ever?
Never, no.
Yeah, no.
Most brands.
Also, it's such a Silicon Valley thing to just be like, I don't know, sounds cool.
Yeah, hey, I think that's every brand though. Like, what the fuck's a Kleenex? What the fuck's a Nike? Oh no, Nike's a good god.
It's a Greek goddess.
Yeah. So Nike's something, but I mean, most
goddess,
brands
actually.
Yeah,
got it. Oh,
it's the Greek goddess of victory. Yeah.
Well, we didn't ask.
I did ask my coworkers because I worked in tech when Allbirds was coming up.
Yeah.
And I
what the hell is that on your feet?
Yeah. I was like, what are those weird cloth shoes? The fuck? And
the big heels on them.
Someone
too,
said,
right?
I don't quite remember.
They like came out. That's the first thing
heels.
Yeah, the heels go back a ton. Are those all?
It looks like a ton, but it's not a ton.
Yeah,
they were weird looking shoes.
Yeah.
And I remember because I was
so the Wool Runners
an engineer,
was like
right? And so I was working with all engineers, and all of a sudden, all of them are wearing these same shoes,
right?
And I asked, and I remember at some point being like, "Why Allbirds?" And I don't know if I ever got told, but
they're like, "Why would you ask that?
Yeah.
You know where we work? Like, this
excuse me, I'm a student of language.
Yeah.
I'm interested in etymologies."
Okay, so that was a random tidbit I came across. So when people first came to New Zealand to settle it, obviously there were Maori people there, but when like the British first came to New Zealand, they didn't even know the Maori people were there, and it was just all birds there. So that I think it's like a nod to the New Zealand.
So it's a nod to the erasure of an indigenous people.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
All whites was taken.
All whites was taken.
He was like, look, I was on the all whites team.
He was going to call it all whites.
Let's go to Allbirds. No, he was not.
He was going to call it all whites. And then Joey was like, dude, you can't call it all whites in the US, bro. So no, I don't think that was, so it was, it was like a nod to being eco-friendly and like not, making like back to the natural state. I don't know. It's also, I think they were like, oh, that's cool. That sounds cool. Let's do that. I think that was probably 90% of it.
It probably came up in that weekend drinking.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's the drinking weekend. Probably the main thing was just brainstorming names.
Was it? Now this is in the Bay Area, so was it actually a drinking weekend, or were they on shrooms?
I mean, probably they were just doing a bunch of cold plunges and stuff. Like cold plunge every other hour.
Little ayahuasca retreat.
Little ayahuasca, yeah.
Let's think of some names. I saw a vision of birds.
Yeah, birds, all whites. No, we can't call it all whites, but we can call it all birds. So that after that, the 200 million in raise, that's about when like Allbirds and Patagonia vest were like the uniform.
What year are we in? Like 2015?
We're around 2016 now. So they launched their official launch, like on their site, was March 1st, or like beginning of March 2016. They had a bunch of money, so they blitzed marketing super hard, and they sold out very quickly. They did $1 million in revenue in that month, that's a pretty good launch for an e-commerce brand. And from there, they just kind of became like the Taylor Swift.
Like
of
how I
internet
nodded to you, like,
companies.
that's a good launch. And I'm like, yeah, it is. I don't know.
You're like,
Fantastic.
right, yeah, I'm giving the context
I
because
don't
I
know
figure most people
business.
don't, right? That's a good first month launch for e-commerce. Like I don't know, some things launch and they do way more in revenue than that.
You're saying they launched and then they had 100 million in revenue?
No, 1 million in month one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not-
that's pretty
yeah,
good.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
200,000 Kickstarter, right? Not even. It was 120 or something.
120?
Yeah.
120K Kickstarter.
120 and he shut it down.
Yeah.
But they had raised a bunch by this point, so they're blitzing like Instagram ads
I
pretty
remember
hard.
seeing them all over the place.
Yeah, there was a time
all
you
over
couldn't go on Instagram
Yeah.
without seeing Allbirds.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
And that wasn't right when they launched, but yeah, shortly after. Because they're venture backed. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't really understand what venture backed means. I just know that when a company is venture backed, they're usually spending a ton on
Do
marketing.
you
Yeah,
think
as
they
far
were-
as I know, it means you don't have to make any money. You don't have to
Oh,
be
yeah,
profitable.
right. Yeah. How much
Yeah.
do you think they were losing off every sale?
I tried to figure out how unprofitable they were at the start.
It's
and
just
They
that,
could have been
runway,
profitable.
baby.
I don't know, but I imagine.
yeah,
I
runway.
miss those days, man. The beginning of tech, when there was like those $5 GT kombuchas in every office.
Yeah.
I drank 3 of those a day.
And we're just like, we don't need to worry about money.
No.
Money's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Money comes from heaven. It
Have
comes
a-
from Sand Hill.
Have an abundance mindset. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So they were kind of like the Taylor Swift to internet companies at this time. They're just taking off. And in some places, like you guys are like, I couldn't turn around without seeing them.
Mhm.
I'm from a very different part of the country where definitely I saw them, but not nearly as much as you.
Yeah, I
probably
want
would.
like that first month of a million in revenue. Was that like 70%
Yeah,
to
it's like
Silicon
all-
Valley?
Yeah, all the people who worked at Twitter were like, we can finally get them. Yeah. So I think that's probably what that was. But yeah, then they started being seen on like actual celebrities. So
Mhm.
like I think like Ashton Kutcher
Ooh,
got seen
burn
in
Paul
Pair.
Graham.
Yeah. Look, hey, as much as I love Paul Graham, not a real life celebrity, just like a niche celebrity, right? So like Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis had him on, and like I don't know, a bunch of people like that. Those
Mhm.
were just the ones that came to my mind. I don't know why. And Time Magazine covered them. I think they were on the cover. Like somebody wearing them was on the cover of Time Magazine. Grew like crazy.
That's a wild story. Look at these weird ass shoes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which the press thing is always like, you never know how much of that's paid for and how much of that's real.
Yeah, it's hard to track especially with like venture back companies.
Usually covers are pretty genuine.
Yeah.
That's so. They grew like crazy, but they're using the direct to consumer model, which means they're not selling into retail,
Mhm.
right? You guys both know that, but for the people out there, so the thing is, it's VC fueled growth, which to you guys is normal, but I think maybe because you're both from the Valley, right?
Mhm.
You're both from, but like I think that isn't all that normal in most of physical product e-commerce. Like most of them have to become pretty self-sustaining pretty early on. And so they're just like raising all this money, pouring it into there, and there's pressure from investors to get their return, right?
Mhm.
So they're getting pressure for a good outcome. They're growing fast, and they're growing, I guess, somewhat healthy, but they're not profitable. And to me, it's kind of wild that you could do they're probably up to 100 million, 150 million, 200 million, not making a profit.
Mhm.
But
I
the
mean,
invest,
it's easy to not make a profit. You just got to spend a ton.
yeah, that's true.
Right.
You
It's
know,
like
just
what
spend
first
money.
20 years of Amazon wasn't profitable, but it's not like they weren't making hella money.
Right.
They were reinvesting.
Yeah.
They were reinvesting.
Right. It's hard with like hardware company, like
I
Right,
think
like,
like
how do you-
to me this story is wild. Like how did you guys not think this is good?
Right,
How did you
it's-
guys think this was going to work out? And you're like, this sounds like a normal.
Right, it's like a shoe company. Like Amazon, they're like taking their money and they're investing in AWS and all these services, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you reinvest that money into more like
Usually
machines?
head count, and you're just paying too much to acquire a customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way that it works in physical products is almost always they think that they're just going to buy market shares so we can acquire customers unprofitably, and then they'll be repeat customers.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that only works if your product's actually good enough to like make people repeat customers.
So you have
Yeah.
to use the wool that breaks down
Yeah.
easily and has holes
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah, but
right?
then there's
There's
like
balance.
come back next month.
Yeah, there's a balance because then they're like, well, that sucked. And then they don't become a repeat customer.
It was such a wild time, man, that 2016, because everything was so focused on user acquisition
Yeah.
Mhm.
and not on monetization. Like everyone was trying to be a slut. No one yet knew how to be a hoe. But like as a
They had to graduate,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, they had to
graduate
like
high
get
school.
there. But so
Yeah.
it was not wild for companies should just be burning money and expect but we have so many people, right? So the big thing is we're probably selling hella shoes. We'll make money at some point. We'll figure it out, right?
Yeah. Hey, have an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about money.
On the consumer end, man, that was a golden age because Lyfts, Ubers, Groupons, everything you bought everything for way less than cost.
Yeah. Silicon Valley was funding the consumer, right? Coupon book pretty much.
We were just all swimming in a river of VC money without realizing it.
That's the thing. Uber now is I'm pretty sure it's more expensive than I ever paid for cabs.
Oh,
right?
it's hella expensive.
Yeah, so it's it kind of just
but there's a bunch of people like me who don't even know how to use a cab.
Yeah.
How do I even get a cab? What do you do?
Oh, that's what I knew.
I only know how to get an Uber.
Service is definitely better with Uber.
I remember being at a party in 2017 and a friend of mine wanted to leave and it was 1 a.m. And she goes, oh, my phone died. How do I get home? And I was like, well, call a cab. And she's like, no, my phone died. I can't call a Lyft. I'm like, we can dial a company, man.
Yeah. I was embarrassed last time I was in New York because I was like, what if I hail this cab and it doesn't come and everyone sees?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I've seen the movies where but I'm like, does that actually work? I've never seen anybody do that. They all just do it on their phone now.
Right.
Oh man, I feel like I went to New York for college and man, that's why New Yorkers get that rep because you got to be fighting in the streets.
Right?
Yeah.
I've been on crutches in New York, hailed a cab and had someone steal it.
Oh,
why are you
God,
on crutches so much?
I did sports too.
You've been on crutches multiple times throughout your life. Nice.
Dude, I've been on crutches 3 times in the last 4 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's not a great ratio.
No. I feel the story you're talking about with him having to find an identity. Because I was all about sports
girl.
until
You're the crutch girl.
Dude, I arrived to college on crutches. And then I proceeded
really
to be on crutches.
My identity is crutches.
I showed up with these and people were just like, uh-huh.
Yeah,
again.
You know how you're known as the Arabic stand-up comedian?
Yeah.
I think crutches could be part of your shtick.
Yo, it's 100%. It's crutches.
Arabic.
It's these leggings and it's Arabic.
People you got so much going on. How do I describe you? You got leggings, you got crutches. You got to pick one thing.
Some people, we can be multifaceted. We can speak
multiple
Arabic and get hit by cars.
At the same time.
Probably was. I was probably on the phone.
So here's the thing. This is VC fuel growth, which is, I think that maybe what would be helpful here is because I actually don't understand funding probably as well as people here do. Mm-hmm. What is venture capital? Can you explain it to me like I'm 12?
Okay, so you could say venture capital, essentially, you're providing cash to a company to grow, right? And ideally, eventually become profitable. I don't think that's even a part of the equation now. But right, you want that company's valuation to grow until it either gets acquired or exits for something much larger.
Yeah. And I don't know if this is inherent to the definition of venture capital because there's normal investment, right? You're I think this company's going to do good. I'm going to give them some of this. Maybe they'll, invest some of that capital in something. But venture capital, it always seems to be swinging for the fences. I'm going to put money in 10 big ideas. 9 of them will probably fail, but then that last one will be Facebook.
Okay. Absolutely. Right. So it's not really about the business fundamentals. It's about how you can put your bet on these horses that you expect to keep on doubling over and over and over, right?
Gotcha.
every year.
Okay.
So, right, I have an investor that put, I think in the first round in Uber, $50K, right? First round. It's over 500 million, at the IPO. So I think
so you can have a whole bunch of losses.
Right? Yeah.
It's
you can invest in
built into
100
the model.
companies. Yeah.
In 2016, I remember an app called Yo.
Oh my God.
Do you remember that one?
Yo.
To me was I was like,
mind blowing.
There's going to be a bubble. This is insane. But it was an app that literally you just pushed a button and it sent a yo to your friend.
It just buzzed your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just buzzed and it was a notification that said yo.
That's
that got a $30 seed funding round.
A 30 million.
Sorry, 30 million.
Yeah.
So venture capitalists are yeah, that seems right.
Yeah. So everyone started downloading.
Did they even
app.
think about it?
Well, it's because stuff had blown up. I don't know. Instagram had blown up.
It's true. After you watch Snapchat blow up, you're like, okay.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Who the hell knows what kids are doing?
The
Clearly
most
not me.
random dumb shit was, and so you got 40 and 50-year-old VCs trying to be okay, what do 11-year-olds like? Yo, that seems cool. I don't know. But yeah, the dumbest shit seemed to be hitting. So
yeah, they got a ton of users.
It just buzzed their phone.
Dude,
it just buzzed your phone and
so
said,
it's the same thing as a text message.
You could
less functionality than a text message.
It was more than just yo. You could send a yo-yo if you hit it twice.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I wasn't.
No, so their pitch. So they started getting
I see
a
the
ton
value
of
now.
users.
Yeah. I'm in now.
Everyone's like,
you know what?
the fuck is
Capitalism
this?
makes
Let
sense.
me download this. So they got a ton of users. I think their whole pitch, I remember my friend telling me, and it was like, oh, we're going to have an API, and this yo is going to be able to like connect to the shit in your house, and then you're going to be able to press one button to make a coffee or whatever.
That's so
it's so out there.
API.
What, you're going to get there from like sending yo to each other?
The way that everything right now is like, oh, we are going to integrate AI into this thing that doesn't even make sense, which a couple years ago was it's all going to be crypto and on the blockchain. Yeah. In like 2015, it was, we're going to have an API.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And what will that do? It'll say yo. I mean, it's going to
be. Your coffee maker will say it to you. Yeah. Okay, so you guys did explain venture capital to me, but you clearly know some very smart 12-year-olds. Like, could you pretend I'm like a dumb 12-year-old?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we'll say, let's see, what's the best way to break this down?
Make it dumber. How do we make this dumber?
Someone's got, I mean, in some ways, it's just kind of like gambling, except instead of roulette, it's companies.
Okay.
And they're really long odds, but you have enough money to lose. And so you put down like 10 bets and hope one of them hits.
But when one hits, it hits
hella hard. Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully. I mean, they could all fail.
If I'm a dumb 12-year-old, I totally got that.
Yeah.
I'm like, so be a degenerate. Mm-hmm. Like, they're just professional degenerates.
You gambled when you were 12, too, right?
Yeah, right.
Don't they?
I certainly
12-year-olds,
did.
You guys know some weird 12-year-olds.
No,
they're the
like, best people to make money off of.
Yeah. Isn't like all loot drops are gambling?
All your customers are 12-year-olds. Yeah.
You're buying a loot drop in Minecraft. Minecraft? Is that the...
Oh, yeah. Like, probably like... I don't know if Minecraft does loot boxes, but
something
does. Yeah.
They're hooking these kids with like stochastic rewards.
Yeah. Okay. And you get a big loot box in some of them. Yeah.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. So it's like when okay. Oh, a lot of games have some variation.
Yeah, it's like buying Pokemon cards, but
like a question mark
one.
Yeah. Like buying Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
It's
you
all
could get something big.
It's all gambling, but yeah, and then instead of just
cards.
taking this money and putting it down on the roulette wheel that you know very well as a child, instead of that,
we're taking a lot of time in Vegas.
Exactly. Instead of
my
that,
mom's into some stuff.
I've seen too much at 12.
Yeah.
But instead of just putting that money on the roulette wheel, you're taking it and you're giving it to socially awkward
people in Allbirds.
And when I'm shitting on tech and developers, you have to remember I am one, so it's also like I'm included. But you're giving it to socially awkward people who suddenly have found that their inability to talk to girls makes them a ton of money.
Oh yeah, man.
And I was scared of girls too, so I'm like
if you have Asperger's, this is a place to raise
you're
money.
making some money here. Yeah. Got it.
God, it was
all the other Asperger's people are like, you're my people.
Yeah.
You want some money? I've got some.
It was crazy. This is when I joined though, because I didn't study software engineering or any of that, but there was such demand, right? Because all this VC money was flowing. They were putting hella bets down. I got into tech at this time, and I know a bunch of people who did by taking I took 2-3 classes.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
You did like a boot camp?
No, I actually, I know a bunch of people did a boot camp, but technically I didn't. Technically, I secretly took a few courses at Stanford while failing out of my PhD.
Interesting.
Yes, in political science, totally different.
Right.
You just showed up
Hence
to the classes?
Arabic.
Yeah. Well, I told my advisor that I really needed to learn how to program better because I did a lot of statistical programming at that point, and I wanted to be able to do web scraping to study because I was doing a project on Tunisia and the Arab Spring. Okay. So I was like, I really got to start studying some of this. Yep. In reality, I was falling apart. Nah.
Yeah. Tunisia and the Arab Spring. Know all about that. Yeah. Okay, so
segue. Oh God.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. So they go public. That basically all this pressure. Mm-hmm. This is where we were. I know because I have a thing here. They have all this pressure from their gamblers to get have this big outcome, and so they make their company public, which means they list it on the stock market. Mm-hmm. That means anybody can invest in it. I can go on Robinhood and buy shares of Allbirds right now if I want to. This made the money back for their investors. So their initial valuation in the public market was about a billion and a half or 1.2 billion or something like that.
Damn.
So if the if the investors all just pulled out right there, they made their money back. But Allbirds actually peaked out at 4 billion. So in the first month, their stock price doubled. In their cap, really a little almost quadrupled in that first month. And I think Joey and Tim, I don't know how much of the company they own, but based on just kind of what I think, ballparking, I think their net worth was probably around 500 million at that point. Also, all the financials became public, so we also know they were taking salaries north of $1 million a year. So doing pretty well, Joey and Tim.
Not bad.
Yeah, personal success at this point. And the investors got success, so if they ever want to do another thing, they can go back to those same investors. They've gotten them a win before.
For sure, yeah.
The problem is all the investors did pull out their money and sold their shares.
Did they tank the stock price?
So by the end of they went public in November of 2021, at the beginning of November. By the end of November, so their price doubled in November. By the end of November, it was back down at the starting price. And then it was it was 15 was the starting price. And then it was 12 by the end of December, 7.
Ooh.
And it's 35 cents now or 50 cents.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's,
Wow,
I mean.
pennies on the dollar type.
And you know who really got screwed in that probably?
The founders.
The founders and the employees.
Yeah.
Because that's...
The employees should have just sold as soon as...
You can't.
You can't?
I was at a company that IPO'd,
Oh.
and there's all these things about insider trading. So if you work at a company, like there's very limited trading periods that you can trade.
Oh.
It's like the 15 days after the quarterly reports. And right after the IPO, I think it was I can't remember exactly, 3 months. We had to wait to trade anything, and you know, everyone's waiting on that day with bated breath. So I can just imagine those poor employees and the founders watching that stock price jump. They're probably partying in the office and then just day by day.
They're just watching their money disappear.
Yeah, this ain't gonna be chill.
Yeah, you never know. You never know with these deals, right? Because whoever's taking you public, they could negotiate, oh yeah, you know, you'll be able to sell a bunch of your shares at IPO. But a lot of times founders get locked out for, years, right?
Right, yeah. And they've said that they didn't really, they according to them, you never know what's BS.
You don't. Yeah, you don't know what they can't talk about either.
Right. But according to them, they've never had it. I think Joey says he's sold off some shares at this point, but still owns most of them. And they've always just been interested in building Allbirds, according to them.
Yeah.
I don't really buy that line, really, if I'm being honest.
You kind of got to say that, right? If you IPO and you as a founder sell all your stock, you're basically telling everyone this is bullshit. I'm bouncing.
Yeah. Can you imagine if they were like, yeah, I sold whatever stock I could, but the investors wouldn't let me sell the rest of my stock.
Yeah.
What that would
be. Because it's still a company, right? So they're...
Yeah, no, they're still... Okay, so here's the thing. I have a couple other I'm 12 questions. What happens... So another thing is he says well, we have a mountain of cash now. So when I put my money into a stock in the stock market, what happens to that money?
So basically, the stock market, everyone's trading it. So once you as a company release your shares, the stock price doesn't really matter unless you want to sell more shares again.
Okay.
Right? So say you're a public company, you need $10 million in funding, you sell $10 million worth of shares, right? Which is some percentage of the company.
Okay.
When the stock price is higher, you can sell less of the company to get the same $10 million.
I see.
It's kind of like concert tickets.
Okay.
Where if the venue sells concert tickets at face value, that's the amount of money the venue has. And then at that point, there's a secondary market for tickets where they could go 4, 10 times. And maybe if you're someone who got one of those tickets at that, face value price, you can sell for a lot, but that doesn't change the amount of money the venue takes.
Yeah, it's like if the venue could also sell more seats.
Yeah. It's not a great...
At the
I was trying to do the 12-year-old.
Yeah, you guys know, the 12-year-olds you guys know are just off the charts. You're not good at the 12-year-old explanations.
I thought concert tickets...
I'll give you another shot, because here was another thing.
I didn't know I'd have to explain.
Here was another thing that really tanked their stock prices, is basically every earnings call has, after every earnings call, either they're not profitable or they're not making close to enough money for how much they're valued at. So let's try again. I'm 12.
All right.
What is explain it to me like I'm 12. What's an earnings call?
Let's see if this breaks apart as I'm saying this.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say what's an earnings call? Or
What is an earnings call?
What is an earnings call?
It's a report card.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's great.
I know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a report card for your business.
Okay.
Right. So,
but you just have to tell everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you tell everyone how well you did, or how
Gotcha.
you grade yourself and tell everyone.
And you don't get to just. It's not like you and your parents. Like you gotta tell everybody.
And you have to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's auditors working. Yeah, that's when a company goes public, there's a lot of stuff that you just got to start reporting and are part of that. And you got to do it every quarter, which kind of sucks if you're trying to, I don't know, invest in some kind of longer time horizon.
Yeah.
This is not for a 12-year-old. I don't know, man.
Yeah. 12-year-olds aren't looking for high risk investments.
So you know how you discount the future.
Yeah.
So anyway, their stock prices basically plummeted. Allbirds now is actually pretty largely seen as like a failure of the direct to consumer era.
Yeah, I feel like most direct-to-consumer...
Warby Parker's seen the same way. A lot of the ones from that era.
Yeah, is
Casper
Warby Parker
mattresses.
seen the same way? I feel like that's the most successful. All the mattress
Warby's
companies...
probably the best, but Casper for sure has seen that way.
Is that inherent to like the business model? Like it just costs too much to ship to consumers? There's too much direct marketing you have to do?
Yeah, the current prevailing wisdom is that direct-to-consumer does not fit the VC...
Yeah.
The venture capital like gambling model. Yeah.
Because there's too much physical stuff.
Exactly.
I don't know. I feel like VC... And I don't,
works with software.
Yeah, it works with software.
Yeah, hardware is really difficult for VC.
Yeah, you're
doing
VC with hardware. Yeah,
scaling is really difficult because you have to buy all that inventory. All your money gets tied up.
Yeah,
right. If you do software, you don't have any inventory. You don't have to hold anything for 6 months. You just hire more people, and then if you do bad, you just fire them. Right. If you do bad with hardware,
instantly reduce your overheads.
Yeah. If you do bad with hardware, you still have all this stuff you can't sell. Right.
Yeah. So a couple things that they say hurt them pretty badly. They say the pandemic hurt them badly. I'm gonna throw a little bit of a red flag on this because being in e-commerce, I know that most e-commerce brands really succeeded during the pandemic. However, they say, I guess if your whole thing is built on that you're like the unofficial uniform of Silicon Valley and nobody's going into work, I could kind of see that. They also say that the rise in costs on like Facebook advertising hurt them. That's actually common. I do buy that. They also say that, you know, they lost their way a little bit. They were really like into the direct to consumer. We own the relationship with the consumer. They started going to retail. They were in Macy's. Their product quality kind of diminished because they had this pressure to
they became not direct to consumer.
Yeah, they're omni-channel now.
That's interesting because I'm still hearing that like, oh, direct to consumer doesn't work. You have to go omni-channel. But we've been doing way better with the direct consumer front than.
I mean, I think that you can ride it a ways. I think when you're trying to force,
massive,
$500 million in revenue at 15% net profit, it's pretty hard.
Yeah,
you need
to be in front of as many people as possible.
Yeah, which is what they needed to do once they went public. So here's the other thing: is when you have to do a public report card, you can't do nothing. Right. So you can't just say, hey, guys, it's all right. Like they've been just shrinking and they're trying to like find the floor. It's like they're like in this swimming pool and they're just going down and they're like reaching their foot down. And like, where's the bottom of the pool? So we can push back up and they're not finding it. And the thing is, when you have to do these earnings calls every quarter, you can't just like keep saying like, you can't do nothing. So the co-founders, they were co-CEOs. They've both stepped down from their role. Tim's gone into product and Joey is now just like a advisor. He's on the board of directors. And they brought in a new CEO. They both have like $500,000 to $1 million a year salaries still. So, they're still making good money. But,
okay. Well, as long as they get out, okay.
Yeah. Look, and then there is a case for them. Yeah. As long as these dudes, they do. Let me make the case for them a little bit because I do think that pretty much everybody's like, put Allbirds in its grave at this point and thinks it's not going to be a successful company. So Hoka, which is a kind of a hot brand right now. I'm wearing them. They were around for 15 years before they ever took off. And they were just like kind of this niche-y running thing. Stanley cups or Stanley like drinkware, 40 or 50 years before some mommy blogger said, hey, this is awesome. And everybody started buying it. And they got into the
They like got revived, right?
They've always been like sort of a thermos company for like dudes in Carhartts in the Midwest.
Yeah. Carhartts, some that also became popular all of a sudden
Carhartts
popped
is
off.
another great example of something that's always been for like workers.
Yeah.
I don't know what a Carhartt.
Oh, Carhartt is really good.
It's everyone outside of Silicon Valley is
Oh,
wearing.
I don't go out. I don't go
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
It's like the
scary.
Patagonia.
Yeah,
It's like the Patagonia of everywhere that's not California.
All right, cool.
Like
Yeah.
if you've ever had to shovel a driveway in a Michigan winter, you know what Carhartt is.
Yeah.
And
Oh, is
you
that
appreciate
the
it.
tan?
Yep.
I know
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah. So Carhartt Stanley Cup was that same kind of brand. Stanley Cups, they were like thermos for like workers, and then some mommy blogger in Utah like blew up their spot.
Mm-hmm.
And now every millennial mom has 17 of them, right? So there is that's the case, like that's trends, that's footwear, that's clothing, right? So if they can just like stay a company, like the name of the game for Allbirds at this point is just like just keep playing the game, and eventually maybe they come back around. Also, I think we can sort of separate like success of the company. I think they kind of had to do this thing that didn't work for them. They had to go public to get their like investors.
Yeah.
We can also just say that like the two like Mike and Joey are way better off.
Oh yeah, it's still a success.
It's a
Yeah.
personal
Kidding me?
success.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, for sure.
They've got way more money.
It also should like one of the crazy things about Silicon Valley is what success and failure means.
Yeah.
Like one of the dirtiest words you can say in Silicon Valley is lifestyle company.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
people say
people
like,
hate that.
oh, you want to work for a lifestyle company? Like you just want to work for a company that makes a nice little profit that funds your life.
Yeah.
You might as well just ask
It's
to
like-
be
it's
spit
like
in
he-
the eye.
It's like giving somebody that's cute. Like
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
pat on the
exactly.
head. Like, that's cute. This is a cute little lifestyle
It's
company.
interesting. It's so
Yeah.
true though. I have friends that have their lifestyle companies and they're loaded, and I've had friends that have
Yeah.
raised $20 million, $30 million, and they're left with nothing
Most
afterwards.
of the richest
right?
people I know have a bootstrap business that just does a good profit.
Yeah, it's insane. I think
And maybe I just don't know.
It's
I don't know Paul Graham. So,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
it's just like the ecosystem here. They
Yeah,
just like
people look down
pummel
on
that
that.
into your head. Oh, like you have to go raise.
We
a
were
ton of
supposed to
money.
change the world with your company.
Yeah.
It's not only that. Like people judge company success here not based off of how much money you make or how successful your company is, or even like how many people buy your product. It's all how much have you raised, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
What's your stock price?
Yeah,
How much
not
have
how
you
many
raised?
employees you have. Yeah, it's how much money have you raised, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
I kind of got out of those social circles over the past couple of years. But has that changed at all?
I don't hang out with too many entrepreneurs like on the daily anymore, but I still feel like when someone asks you like, "Oh, how big's your company?" they're usually asking how much have you raised?
How much have you raised?
Right.
So I will say that in e-commerce particularly, there's definitely been this shift in the mindset nationally, maybe not here, toward profitability. Like you need to be able to run profitably. You can't afford to acquire customers at a 3x loss and hope that you'll make it back in lifetime.
I can tell you the last time we raised money, investors were very happy about the profitability aspect.
Right. Exactly. For a physical product
Yeah.
company, for
Which
sure.
I think before is almost a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Like,
why
why
should
would you
grow
focus on
faster?
profit? Like
Why do you need
monetization
money
will
then?
come.
Mhm. So let me break down a couple things, because the idea of this show is that I like to tell a story, have a conversation, but like if somebody were to try and recreate this success, if you wanted to be these guys, how would you do it? So I'm gonna break down a couple things I pulled out or noticed. So this might be controversial, but if there's like one thing you won't catch me doing, it's borrowing money at the start of a business. So he got a grant. Personally, I would almost always fund it with some kind of maybe friends and family investment, or if I had another business cash flowing, or a little bit of my own money. I would never like take a bank loan or take funding when all I had was an idea and I had no proven model or product market fit.
I don't know. Sometimes you gotta live a little,
Yeah, I know.
right?
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
if it's
I
the
get
bank's
it.
money,
Yeah.
you got limited liability.
Yeah, if it's not
They ain't gonna
personally
miss it.
guaranteed, it's kind of free.
You got an idea and a dream, baby. Like
Yeah. It doesn't matter how bad
it's
the
not your,
idea is.
it's like you take your parents' money. You should probably do something smart with that. But
Yeah. I don't think
right?
I,
if you
I don't think
if you
I
go
would
in
take,
with an idea and you get the bank or a VC to just give you a blank check, like ride that.
I don't think I would take friends and family money either. You did, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We started with like friends' money. I think it's a lot to ask for at the early stages where you're like, hey, there's a 99% chance their company's gonna fail.
Yeah.
Do you say that even when you're talking to your first investors? Like, I think that's why Silicon Valley has met so many con artists, right? Because you're like, you literally the first stage of the company, you have to try to convince people that your company is not going to fail, but in the back of your mind, you know that 95% of companies fail within the first few years. You know.
Especially ones here where they're like mostly long shot.
Yeah.
We're either going to change the world or we're going to fail type companies.
I mean,
and they
I still
still-
feel like
Nobody wants to have a lifestyle business here.
But even normal businesses, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I mean, all businesses fail eventually, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's hard, right?
Okay. Another thing I noticed for them is, look, I don't know why nobody talks about this, but I think this is one of the most underrated things when building a business. If you want to have a successful business, you should find someone who brings something to the table that you don't already have.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, and from what I've seen, in order of importance, I think that is first money, or first customers, second connections, 3 money, 4 industry knowledge, 5 skills. Right. And so those are kind of like 5 things that you're probably going to need if you want to build a company. But if you've got some of those, like, find someone else. It could be a hire, it could be a co-founder or whatever. But like, I think that was another thing that Tim did really well, is like, clearly you have like some industry knowledge, you know how to do this product. You have no idea how to like keep this thing going.
Mm-hmm.
And then Joey has connections,
Right.
and that gets them the money they need. And I think a lot of people are like, let me just do it all myself, you know?
Yeah, I think you won't last very long being the bottleneck in your own business, right?
Yeah, it's probably cheaper to do it yourself. And then also, like, most people kind of hang out with people similar to them.
Yeah.
So you're going to have
Exactly.
a whole
They have
bunch
the
of
same. Yep.
people who are all like, okay, we all know software.
Yeah.
You
But
know, you gotta
nobody
have
knows how to
those-
get us customers.
Yeah, you got to have those cross-click connections, which,
Yeah.
talk to people? That's crazy.
Yeah. It's a tough one. Like not on Slack. You want me to talk to people like out in the real world?
Disgusting.
Ugh,
And
gross.
some of them might be like bros, jocks.
Yeah. The ones who are actually going to know how to sell the product. Yeah. Okay. And so then I also think another big thing here is, don't sell to your customers, sell to the people who have your customers' attention. So I think when you're just first building, going directly to your customers is good, and kind of doing this one-to-one sale thing. That's what Nike did early on. They sold out of the back of the van. Adidas did a similar thing. UGG did a similar thing. I'm saying a bunch of shoe companies because we're talking about shoes. But I think that's like really more product development than anything, right?
Yeah.
Once you've got the product down, you know, I think usually it looks like try and go to retail, try and go to influencers.
Mm-hmm.
They did a very interesting, like, creative wrinkle of it where they're like, let's go to investors with the product, right? But I think that's a big one, is that it's like, don't just like try and do hand-to-hand combat, you know, try and figure out like, how can I do some leveraged selling?
Yeah,
know?
you want to find a strategy that you can repeat and scale, right?
Yeah.
And usually selling directly.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
Out
We
of a
did
van.
it. We used to go to Fisherman's Wharf. We used to bring a cart there on the ferry.
I think that's the early thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, can I
Yeah.
get some traction? Can I get some people interested in this? What's the feedback I'm getting right here?
Yeah, ultimately we found out how to price it. I think
Yeah.
we went every weekend for
That's product development.
yeah,
though.
like 5 weeks. We thought we were selling though, right?
Yeah.
Like it
We
was a
think you
hard
are. That's good.
lesson.
Yeah.
And we didn't sell a single one. And then one of my co-founders flew here, and he's like,
Just price it lower.
Yeah, let's just lower the price, see what happens. And that's
Then they moved.
yeah, they moved, and then we realized we could just sell them at that price.
Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. Next thing, now I'm going to talk about some stuff that I think they didn't do well. I might get some hate for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I will get some hate for this, but nobody cares if something's eco-friendly. I think,
Ooh.
yeah,
I think you're right too.
yeah,
We do this with our marketing all the time. So all of the ink that goes into our printers is all biodegradable.
Mhm.
When we stick that on our ads, it doesn't change anything, right? Like sometimes it hurts it because
Do you think that's changed?
I would think so, but our ads would say no.
No, I mean, like, I feel like people have, I don't know, I get the general vibe that people care less about eco-friendly as everyone thinks we're all going to like die in a fiery ball anyway.
I don't know. I feel like,
yeah, like we
people-
can't change it.
I feel
Yeah.
like talking to people. I mean, I live here, right? But I feel like everyone here is always talking about it. You
Yep.
know, we just did a deal like with some European people, and they're requiring ESG audits or like environmental audits, so to make sure, right? It's like a legal thing that's like the EU is putting on all companies.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like here it's just like one of those things where people cared about it a lot, and then it became like so much vetting you have to do that a lot of people just get burnt out, and they're like,
Yeah. It's definitely not as trendy
Yeah.
anymore, even in like the investment landscape here.
So here's my theory on this. First of all, I don't think anybody believes it when you say you are eco-friendly, because just on everything now. Secondly, I think you have to solve problems that are right on people's doorsteps. And while, you know, the VC at Y Combinator or the VC at A16Z might care if something's eco-friendly because he lives in Silicon Valley, Sandy, the soccer mom in Kansas, might care about the environment, but she's got 200 things on her to-do list today, and she's running on 4 hours of sleep. And the environment is a problem for future Sandy.
Yeah.
Right?
Being environmentally friendly is really easy when you're rich, right? When you can spend a couple more dollars on XYZ, right?
Yeah,
Most
you can hate
people-
on plastic all you want when you can afford glass.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's exactly right.
And
I think they're in this echo chamber of
that's where like
Silicon
good on
Valley.
Europe, honestly. That's where you got to regulate that, because we can't count on just like consumer preferences leading us to better
Yeah. if someone has
environmental practices, right? Because consumers like, okay, you have freedom of choice, but you got 200 choices.
Yeah.
You're not going to choose it. You're going to choose the cheap thing.
Yeah, and you don't even know the ramifications. So Allbirds has this core thesis that people care a ton about the environment. And I think people probably do care about the environment, but they just have more urgent stuff to care about. And when Allbirds had to grow to this mass scale, that message just didn't really resonate with, you know, Sandy, the soccer mom. And if I were to give them like one knock of like, I think something that could kill them is that they still are working with that thesis, that people really care. And as people become more educated, they'll make the right decision. I'm like, I think that's like a very like echo chamber, Silicon Valley bubble thesis to be working with, you know?
Yeah, I could actually believe that.
Yeah. I mean, because you've
I don't want to
experienced it
believe
with
that.
the-
That's sad as
You
hell.
don't want to.
But yeah.
But I just think it's you know, it's like not, again, I think it's a problem for, you know, future.
Whoa.
And then I think there's probably a portion of the audience that consumers who gets because environmental issues have become so polarized politically, they see that as a signal against their like cultural values.
Yeah, well,
exactly. And
every time someone buys an Allbird, someone in Texas loses their job.
Yeah.
Texas, the hub of shoe manufacturing.
The oil.
Somebody burns a flag somewhere, you know. But yeah, like that's exactly right. Anytime you're attached to an issue that gets politicized, even if it's not an inherently political issue, then you kind of like flow with the winds of that political issue, which is another issue that they have. But and I think the last thing too is that like, I mean, they kind of had to go public, but I think the takeaway there is like, once you have to report things, you can't do nothing anymore. Yeah. Meaning sometimes all you need is just to like, you just need to do the same thing for a long enough time and things will work out. And that's like everything in life. Like if you want to lose weight, sometimes you just need to work out and eat right for a long enough time. If you want to grow a business, sometimes you just need to like keep doing the right stuff for a long enough time. But when you're public, you have to do this like quarterly earnings call where you report what's going on. And if you're not where you want to be, then you have to do something about it instead of just saying, hey, we just need to stay the course.
Yeah.
And even then it's not necessarily about like you're reporting just steady growth. It can't be steady. It has to be exponential. We have to get our return as investors.
Yeah. So anyway, all said, broken down, I think, honestly, I think they'll probably figure it out. I think they'll be sort of, if they can just hang on, stay in the game, they'll probably be a brand. They'll be around for a while and they'll have some resurgence at some point. And then they'll have they'll have learned from the whole experience. But that's Allbirds.
Do you know what the market cap is now?
Yeah, it's only about 80 million.
80 million? That's it? They might take it private again.
That's what they've talked about. So they've said that that's not off the table.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to make sense.
You can get delisted, I guess. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Like, basically, the NASDAQ could be like, bro, you suck.
I'm pretty
like,
sure.
Get out.
Yeah.
There's no penny stocks on the NASDAQ or on like.
If your stock price is too low, they'll delist you. Sometimes people do like, I think they do stock splits just to try to get or merges just to try to get the price up. But I feel like 80 million market cap's pretty low.
I mean, when you started out at 1.2 billion.
Yeah, but like you can't get listed on the NASDAQ with an $80 million company, right? I imagine you can't.
These are questions I don't know the answer. I had to ask you to explain a stock to me like I was 12. These are things that I don't know
assume
the
that was
answer
an
to.
exercise in making us feel foolish. Do you really understand it? Explain it to a child.
I do understand more of it than like, you know, but like I also don't.
We're in Silicon Valley. None of us understand it.
Yeah,
we just act like we do.
We can all use the buzzwords. That's what's important.
I put a TikTok out that got like pretty good traction where I said, explain a hedge fund to me like I'm 12 to a guest. This is why I did this to you guys, so that everyone on TikTok will think you're dumb.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It got like 350,000 views and nobody agreed on what a hedge fund is. Not a single.
Amazing.
Yeah. And they're like, this guy clearly doesn't know what a hedge fund is. I'd be like, what is it? And they all said different stuff. So I still don't know what a hedge fund is.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the episode. Tell us where you can find you.
You can find us on toybox.com. I'm pretty quiet in the social media space.
Yeah,
So,
that's all right.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
just buy the product.
yeah. Buy the
Really
product. It's
representative
a
of the
great
product.
Christmas present. I don't know when this is coming out, but
It's gonna be a few months till Christmas. Buy it
great
now.
present in general.
Yeah. Yeah, birthdays, Christmas, whatever,
You
just
print
for
your
fun.
own toys on Christmas Day.
Yeah, you can print your own. So it doesn't
Yeah,
even have to
it
be
seems to me like if your kid's in like the Crunch Labs vein, if your
oh
kid
yeah,
like,
Crunch Labs, very similar. I mean, if they like Legos,
then they'll probably like your stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on like all the normal socials, Instagram, TikTok, all that. My handle is @HoGrammer, HO_GRAMMER, like a programmer, but the distaff counterpart.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I program for money, you see.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad
You're not a slut grammar. You're a hoe.
No, I'm a ho-grammer. I do it for cash.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I signed up, I'm so glad Instagram told me that the one without an underscore was taken, because that is easily just hog-grammer, which was not what I was trying to get through. It's ho-grammer.
You were trying to get the handle.
Yeah, I was like, I just wanted I was like, I don't want to put an underscore in here. Every day I thank hog-grammer for taking that handle from me. But yeah, you can go to my Instagram. I post a lot of jokes. I post where I'm going to be touring.
Very, very funny comedian. Definitely go see her
for sure
if you can, and if not, support on the socials. Thanks for watching. Wherever you're watching this, do all the things that people say to do. So like subscribe, like, bell, leave a review, all that thing. Peace.